everyone, I'm Corinne Blackstone and welcome to my craft room. In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to do the really trendy side bow designs using HTV. We're going to do two different styles. So I'm going to do this blue sweatshirt, which could be used any time of the year, but then I also wanted to throw a Christmas twist into it and do this one with the candy canes that I thought was just so stinking cute. This is actually a lot easier than you think, and you really only need a couple of supplies. So you're of course going to need a Cricut machine to cut out your HTV, but you can do this on any craft cutter. You'll need HTV of your choice, a bow design, and I'm going to link some of my favorite little bow designs that I think will work really well for this down below. You'll need a sweatshirt. I do recommend a crew neck over a hoodie. I did look at doing it on a hoodie, but the pocket almost gets in the way a little bit too much, so definitely a crew neck is the way to go. You're going to need some super sharp scissors to cut the fabric and some sort of a heat press, whether you're using an easy press, a regular heat press, whatever you have, a home iron, any of that will work just fine. And if you want, you can have some fabric glue, though totally not needed. Knit fabric like this does not fray, so you shouldn't have to worry about any of that happening if you cut the sides of it. So you don't necessarily need the fabric glue, but if it's something you want, you can definitely use that. So let's go ahead and get started. To make your bow applique sweatshirt, you'll of course need a bow, and I got two from Creative Fabrica that work really well. One's definitely a Christmas theme, and then the other one is just a plain bow that you can make in any color that you want to. I'll link some bows that I think would work really, really well for this down below. So what we'll do is we're going to go to upload, and we're going to upload the bow images, and I'm going to make both of these for you so that you can see. I've already pre-uploaded them, but I'll show you how to upload. You're going to click upload image, and then you can either browse for your image or drag and drop your file. Now for this, you want to make sure that you're using your SVG because this is a layered bow project. So I'm going to pull my SVG over. Now, my SVG does show as an HTML document, and that may be the case for you as well, so just be aware of that. Now, one thing I also want to point out is if you see how blurry this looks, totally okay, it's normal. There's something going on with Design Space. It's been going on for months, so don't fret if it looks a little bit blurry while you're uploading it. It'll be completely fine once it's actually into Design Space. Now, because this is an SVG, there's not much I have to do. I'm going to change this to pink bow. And then I can put like any tags I want or put it into a collection from here, but I'm just going to upload this and it'll go right into your canvas. Now I'm going to go ahead and add the candy cane one because it's done exactly the same, but I'm just going to do it from my uploads folder, grab that, add it to my canvas, and now I'll have both of my designs. Now, what's fun about this is you can use any colors that you want to create this. You can create this in like a seasonal thing with this cute little candy cane that I thought would be super fun and unique, or you can use just like a plain bow like this pink one. Now, we do need to do a couple of things in order to make this so that it's going to cut correctly. Let me size this down really quick. And what I want to do first is show you if I don't do anything to these, what they're going to look like. So I'm going to click make really quick. I'm not going to save it right this second. I'll come back and save it when we're done here. But what you're going to see is that the candy cane one is going to be an absolute mess. So you'll see all of our white parts are everywhere, and then all of our red parts are everywhere, and we don't want to have to deal with that. There's the bow for our pink one, and then this is the backing part for the candy cane one. So I'm going to show you how to fix that so that it's going to cut really, really nicely. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to hide this pink one for a few minutes just so that we can assess our problem here. So what you're going to do is I want you to click this down arrow, and now look at this. Each piece is an individual layer, and we don't want that because it's not going to cut correctly. So what you'll need to do is you're going to select the top portion. You're going to click these two squares, and that's going to ungroup your design. Now what I want to do is select all of my red pieces here, and I'm just holding shift on my keyboard and clicking them over in my layers panel. Now there are quite a few red pieces, and every time you click one at the bottom, it's gonna pull you back up to the top. It's super annoying. This is one of my major complaints with Cricut Design Space at the moment, is that every time I click something down here, it pulls it right back up to the top. I've definitely sent feedback on that many times and have yet to have this fixed. So I'm just going to click all of these red pieces, and then once I have all the reds selected, go down to combine. Now you can use unite or you can use weld. Now I prefer to use weld because it makes it all one single layer, and I'm never going to edit that layer. I don't need to take it apart ever. I always want it to be that single red layer. Now I'm going to show you a quick trick, because now that we have the reds all selected, go ahead and hide this weld layer, and then go down and find the black layer and hide that. Then you can take a square and draw it around your design, or you can use the select all option, and then you can go to combine and you can weld your white layer. Then you can just unhide the rest of your pieces, and you see you have your candy cane bow back and ready to go. Now, as for sizing on these, you'll kind of need to judge how big you want them to be. It's truly up to you and the size that you want to use. You don't want to go a whole lot wider than maybe 6 or 7 inches, because you got to think about the fact that you need to see it on the side, and you don't want it to wrap around too far on the edges. But again, you make your bow however you want. So I'm going to size this down a bit, and I'm probably going to go a little closer to like the 7.5 inch mark. That gives it about 5.5 inches, maybe 5 3/4 inches tall. So it's a pretty big design. Now you're going to want to put this on both sides of the shirt if you want to. I would recommend it because it's going to make the shirt sit and fit better, because we do need to do some cutting to the shirt. So what I want to do is I'm going to duplicate my design so that I have 2. Now, because there's no writing on this and it really doesn't matter, you don't need to mirror this to use HTV. Now, I'm not going to bother mirroring them because I'm fine with them facing the way that they're going to face. So we've got these 2 done. So let me just go ahead and scooch these off to the side. Let's bring our pink bow back in, because this one's more of like kind of everyday wear, and it's a little bit different shape. So I wanted to show you this one. Now, again, this one is grouped as well, and I want to show you the different pieces because I like the way that they layered this, because it makes a lot of sense. So I'm going to go ahead and ungroup this. Now, this is 4 layers big, and for this one, you'll see you've got the darker color accent ribbon pieces. We have the main pink piece, which is like the big part of your bow. We have the lighter pink parts for your bow, and then this is where you're going to layer everything on top of, so you have a solid layer. And what I like is it gives those little holes in here to give all that like dimension. So they've done a really good job as far as decorating this and making it look correct so that it makes sense. Now, I'm probably not going to get this fully layered correctly back on here, but I'm going to just try my best and get it close enough for now, because we do, again, want to size this. So again, you need to think again, how big do you want it? You do whatever you want to do. You also want to kind of think about how big is this slit going to be. You don't want it to go all the way up to like the bottom of the armpit. That's too big of a slit. So you do want to kind of play around with your sizing. So for this one, I'm going to make it a little bit smaller than our candy cane. I think for this one, I'm only going to do about 5 inches. I think that will be a decent size for the bow. Now, let's say you're kind of wondering, well, how big is this slit going to be? Like, how tall? Because this is where we're going to cut out the sweatshirt. It's this area right here. So one quick little trick you can do for this is I'll just take a shape, and it doesn't really matter. I like to use a square. You can use the line, but the square works too. And all I do is I open up a square, and then I take my square, I line it up with close to the bottom of where that bow piece is, and then I just drag it down to where the bottom of the tail is. And that's going to tell me how tall this design is. So how tall is the slit going to be? So that slit's going to be about 3 inches, which might be a little big for depending on like what size sweatshirt. So you want to think about that too. But I think 3 inches, because we're using a bit of a longer sweatshirt, will be just fine. But that's just like a quick little trick that you can use to help yourself kind of measure little spaces like that when you want to know like how big they're going to be. But I think that's pretty good. We are ready to go. Let me grab these and pull these back over. And I'm just going to do a quick check. I want to make sure the blacks are the same color. So I'm going to go to color sync, and they are all the same color. So that's good. That's easy enough. That way, if we can fit more than one on a piece of HTV, that'll be great. So now I do want to save my project. So I'm going to save this as sweater bows. That way I know what I'm using them for, and I'm going to click save. Now you can decorate the front of your shirt however you want to. I'm going to do this one here with the candy canes with the word Mary, but I'm just going to leave the bow, the pink bows by themselves because I'm not sure what I want to put on that one. And you guys can do what you want with it. But since I know I'm going to put a little Mary decoration on the front of this one, let's go ahead and I'm going to scooch these back over again just so they're out of my way. And I'm going to add the text that I want to use. And this is a super easy thing that you can do just to add a quick little like fun text. I'm going to use the word Mary, and then I want this in like that college block font. So I'm going to open up my fonts. I'm going to go to my system fonts, and then I know that it's called college, at least I think it is. There's a couple versions of it. There's also like university and varsity, but that's not quite the one I was looking for. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to probably have to scroll because I can't remember the exact, oh, here it is. Yeah. We've got college combined. I want the one that has like the outline section, which that, I think it's that one. So I'm going to make this bigger really quick so I can see this. And I don't love the way that they changed the font design and ability to like choose your fonts. So I'm going to make this bigger so I can see it. Yeah, this is the one that I want. Now I want to curve it because I don't want it to be completely straight. So I'm going to use my curve option. And I'm just going to curve it a little bit. I don't want it like too crazy, but I am going to move this Y over because I hate the way the Y sits on this. Now I am going to take the Y and move it over because I think it looks weird. So I'm going to ungroup this to letters. And then I just want to move this Y individually. And you see that it shows that curve. That's going to help you move it so that it stays on the curve. I just think it looked too far over. Now when I place this on the shirt, I will tilt the wording a little bit. It's a little off right here, but that's okay. Then I'm going to select my word. I'm going to go down and I want to go into my layers panel and I'm going to combine them and weld them. And then I am going to make this smaller because this is a little bit too big to fit on our shirt. So typically for an adult sweatshirt, I would go about like 9.5 to like 9, but I think because this is going to be on a bigger sweatshirt, it's going to fit a little bit looser. I do want this to be pretty big so it looks like an oversized shirt. So I think that's good. Now another thing you can do to make this look a little more like even to your eye is if you want to just turn it in Design Space, it's going to cut fine and you just turn it when you get it. Now I'm going to do this in the same color red that's going to be on the candy canes. So I think that looks pretty good and I think we're good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and click save. That way I have all my pieces and parts for my designs. Then all I simply need to do is click make and I'll show you what everything looks like. Now you're going to want to make sure that you mirror the Mary, and Cricut Design Space will actually automatically mirror everything for you once you select a HTV related cut setting. So you'll see that we have our white section and then we have our blacks. Now sometimes you can fit more than one thing onto, like you can actually like slide these in. I don't think it's going to fit on this one just because of how big everything is, but I'm going to play with this really quick and just see. It's definitely not going to fit both of them, but I can save a little bit of my HTV by moving my bow a little bit, and that way I'm not wasting quite so much. And then I have my red candy cane pieces. Again, you can only fit the 2 on there. The Mary might fit if I turn it. So I'm going to use these 3 dots. I'm going to move the object, and I'm going to select this first red and click confirm. Then I'm just going to turn it sideways. And once it's sideways, oops, grab it, it'll fit fine on that same piece of HTV. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I won't have to cut 2. Now you're going to have 3 different colors of pink or whatever color you're going to do your bow in. And from here, we can just simply click continue, and I'll show you that automatic mirroring feature, which I think is kind of nice, but also slightly annoying. Now for this, I'm just going to be using some StarCraft HD, but I also want to use some glitter HTV. That's going to be the red. So I'm going to choose the everyday iron on setting. Now when I choose that, you'll notice that it says mirror on. Design Space automatically turns mirror on for iron on and infusible ink, which I think is somewhat helpful unless you have something that you definitely don't want to mirror for whatever reason, but I'm fine with mirroring all of this, so it'll be fine. But if you ever want to turn it off for whatever reason, maybe you're cutting something and you want it to face a certain way, whatever, you can simply turn the mirror off with the little mirror button down here under each of your different mats. So you'll just want to make sure that if you have multiples, you want to make sure that you do turn that off or on, whichever you need. but it does it automatically. I'm going to tell it to remember my material settings. That way I don't have to select it after each mat, but I will change it for our red mat, and that one's going to be cut with the glitter iron-on setting. We might actually use holographic. I'm really not sure now that I think about it. And I want to point out that, do you notice that it doesn't look mirrored right this second? Once you click on the mat and then you look at it, it mirrors it. So don't worry if like right off the bat rip, it's not looking mirrored. Just click away from it, click back on it. So let's head over to the machine. We're going to get all of our HTV loaded, and then I'm going to show you how to press these because it's super fun. Now that we have everything weeded, we need to lay out our design, and we're going to do one side at a time. So I'm going to place this one over to the side. Now, with this, you're going to need to fold this and make sure that it's even, because you only really have one seam to work with. There's a seam on one side of the cuff, and that cuff seam may not always be the exact middle. So what I do is I just make sure that my sweatshirt is well folded out and as even as I can get it. And then I'll usually just tuck the sleeves out of the way because those usually tend to get in the way. Now you want to pre-press this so that you don't have any moisture in your shirt, and it can also really help to find those edge seams. So you want to make sure that there's no wrinkles anywhere in your shirt. Now I'm just going to pre-press this on my press once it heats up a little bit more. I usually just go like 300-ish. You don't have to press it at the temp of your HTV. You just want to press it enough that you can get out these wrinkles, you can get this to lay nice and flat, and we can find these edge seams. Now that I've pressed it, there's still some wrinkling here because I only pressed like the edges. I didn't press the whole shirt, but you'll see that you're going to have a good seam. Now I'm going to pull these sleeves back up onto the table so that this doesn't flop off. But when I fold this part over and then pull it apart, you'll see now I have a nice center seam to work with, but you can also see that it does not line up, in fact, with that sewn portion. So what I do is I'm going to gather my sweatshirt and kind of pull it apart, and I'm actually going to fold it like this so that it is now folded in half. So instead of it being with the sleeves over there, the sleeves are kind of up and down. And then I'm just going to go in here, and I want to just make sure I get out any of like the wrinkles, because this sweatshirts just love to like pucker, and there's going to be a pucker in here I got to get rid of. There we go, got rid of it. Okay, now what you're going to do is take your bow design, whatever design you're using, and in this case we're using our candy canes. Now you don't want this to go all the way to the bottom of your shirt. I'm going to move this up a little bit so you can see. I'm going to put it just like a little bit above the very bottom of the shirt, and then I want to line it up centered with that center line. And then I just want to make sure that there's no like wrinkles under where I'm putting my bow. Now I will say that does not look fully straight to me. Now one thing is this, if this isn't perfectly 100% straight, nobody's going to notice because of where this is going to lay on your body, or whoever's going to wear it body, because it's going to have a, like, it's always going to have a little bit of a curve to it because this is going to sit on your hip. All right, now see, I keep getting a little pucker right here under the actual design. So because I don't want that pucker, I just have to kind of keep making sure that that pucker is going away. Now I do find working with sweatshirts, you're gonna get a pucker here or there because of the material. So I just wanna make sure that I pull that nice and straight and tight. And I can still see that I've got a little pucker. So you wanna just make sure that while you're laying this out, you're taking your time and making sure that the sweatshirt is laying flat under your design. So I'm just kind of going under it with my hand to press out any of that puckering, and I think that looks pretty good. So like I said, we're gonna go a little bit further up from the edge of our sweatshirt. You can go a little closer down to the bottom if you so desire, but that's really up to you and the way you want it to look. Now we are layering. We have 3 layers to this. So we have our black, we have our white, and then we have our holographic. So we're only pressing this layer for just a couple of seconds. Then we'll put the next layer on, and then we will press that for a couple seconds. And then we're gonna do our final press of our holographic at the full press time. So I'm gonna be pressing everything at 315 degrees for the first couple seconds for the first one and the second one, and then the last one will press for that full 15 to 20 seconds at 320 degrees. We're ready to press our first layer, and I do just want to make sure that this looks straight again. Sometimes when you move it over to your press, you just want to double check that it is straight. Now we are pressing directly on to this seam here, so what you're going to want to do is make sure that you press with a good firm pressure. That way that seam ends up a little bit flatter. So I am going to use a lot of strength to put my press down. Now, like I said, we're only pressing for just a couple of seconds, so I pressed for about 5 seconds, and this is a warm peel product. So I'm going to go ahead and peel this off. And then I'm going to get our white layer. We're going to line up the white layer and press that next. Our white layer is all of our candy stripes. So we're going to just try to get this lined up nice and neat and even. I think that looks good. And again, this layer will only be pressed for just a few seconds, like 4 or 5 seconds. Again, using a fairly firm pressure on this. That way it doesn't have the seaming issue. When you have a big seam like this, it can be a little difficult to work around. But when you do it like that with the little firmer pressure, it should work just fine. For our last layer, we're going to be doing our holographic, and that's going to be the bow and the red candy pieces, the stripes. So you want to just take your time, make sure you get this lined up to where you're happy. I think that might need to move over just a touch. All right, I think I'm good with this one. So for this one, we're going to be pressing this at the full press of 320 degrees, although mine says 317, but that's okay. And I'm going to do 15 seconds, but I'm going to let it go just a little bit longer because this usually is about a 20-second press. All right. And believe this is a medium to cool peel, so we're going to let this sit for just a few moments. That way it can cool down before we peel it. Now for this holographic, you want to let it cool, so I just take it off of the press. I let it fully cool, and now we can peel this off and reveal our design. So pretty, so glittery. Now we're going to do the exact same thing to the other side, so I don't think you need to see me do that. And then I'm going to show you how we cut our shirt. Now that this side's cool, we'll go ahead and peel. And I'm going to do the cutting before I press the other piece, just because I don't think you need to see me press the Mary on it. Should be pretty self-explanatory. Now you want to use sharp scissors, and the only sharp scissors I have are my Cricut scissors. And what you want to do is you only want to cut your shirt along the edge of the bow on the inside. Now, everyone's going to say something different. I personally find it that you're not going to need to put any kind of fabric glue on this, but you can if you want to, but I don't tend to see any fraying with these knit type of materials. So I'm going to go ahead, and this is probably going to go a little bit slow with these scissors, so if you have bigger, sharper scissors, by all means use those. But what I'm doing is I'm just cutting right along this HTV seam. I'm not cutting the HTV. Just cutting right along that seam. Now when you get to this part right here where you've got this big thick seam, you may have a little bit of trouble cutting through, but don't worry, it will cut through. And then I'm just going to cut all the way up to where the bow reaches the middle. And then I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Just going to come in at an angle and just cut along the HTV. And I'll do this to both sides of our shirt, and then I'll show you what it looks like all finished. I want to show you an alternative way to do this as well. If you don't want to do it on your table, do it right on your heat press. So what I do is I open up my sweatshirt, and instead of putting both pieces of the sweatshirt, so both sides in, kind of loop the sweatshirt around the base of my press. And that way I'm only pressing one side, and I've got my seam marked, as you can see. Pretty good mark for my seam. Then I'm going to bring in my HTV piece and line it up on that seam. Now this bow is several layers more than the other one, so you may want to keep that in mind. But this one is not going to have quite as wide of a V at the bottom. Now I do want to put this one a little closer to the base just because it is a little taller of a V, like a slit, but it is not going to be quite as like wide. So I'm going to go ahead and get this set where I want it, which I'm happy with that. So I'm going to go ahead and press this. Again, we just press for a few seconds. You don't want to do the full press on that. And pull this up. And this is, again, a warm peel product, which all of our layers for this one are warm peel. Now, it's really up to you what layering, like, order you do these in. We have 4 layers, so I'm going to do the two big layers first, and then I'm going to come in with the 2 skinny layers. Now I do want this to cool down just a little bit more before I place this layer. It's pretty hot, and sometimes that can cause a thick layer like this to get some bubbling. So I'm just going to take the sleeve and kind of put it on that hot part, and that should pull some of the heat out of it to help cool it down a little bit faster. You can use those like cooling blocks, but really they're just blocks of marble, and you probably have something at home that would work just as well. So now that that's nice and cool, I'm going to go ahead and place this, keeping in mind that we do have a layer that goes with this. So I just need to figure out quite where it lays. Now if you're having a little bit of trouble, bring that other layer in, and it can help to just bring it in to see where everything is going to lay. So I'm going to get this laid out onto the light blue layer. That way I can get a better idea of where I'm going to put the light blue layer. I think that looks good. This one doesn't have like a lot of black around the outside, so that was sort of throwing me off a little bit because I'm used to having like a wider offset. But now that I kind of know where everything is sitting, I just want to adjust this a little bit. All right, then I'm going to go ahead and make sure I'm only pressing this blue layer, which again, we'll only press for a few seconds. Then we're going to put those darker lines in, and then we'll put the little tiny line, those little light blue sections right here. So again, warm peel, and then I'm going to allow this to cool for a moment. Now that that's cool, I can layer this section on. And you just kind of watch where you're putting it. You might need to adjust it a little bit before you're satisfied. I think that looks good. So again, press for a few seconds. Alright, that one's done. Again, pull hot. This is looking so cute. And then our last and final piece are these 2 little itty bitty sections that go here just for like a little bit of contrast on your bow. So I'm just going to get those lined up. I'm not super satisfied. I think I'm going to cut them in half. That way I can just layer one at a time, like kind of line it up one at a time. I think that for me is going to be more so what I want to do. I think I want to move that over. What's nice about HTV is you're not committed to where you've placed it until you've actually pressed it. So I can kind of move it and manipulate it a little bit to get where I want it to go. That's why I wanted to cut them apart. I think it would just be easier to move them on their own. All right, I'm happy with that. Now for this one, you're going to do the full press. And we have this side done. So what you have to do now is just simply flip your sweatshirt over to the other side where your other seam is, and just follow those same exact directions. So I'll let this one go a little bit faster just so you can watch me go ahead and press everything, and then we'll get the shirt cut, and I'm going to show you what they both look like. Here is our finished shirt with the candy cane. I absolutely love how this came out. It's really cute, really Christmassy, and I really love the glitter that I added. Now keep in mind, you can do this with any kind of HTV that you want to. Flock would be really cute. Even puff would be really fun for these. So don't just think you have to use like a plain HTV or just a glitter HTV. Have fun with it. Now, one question that I do see a lot when I posted about this was, what about the edges? Are they going to fray? And I just want you to know that knit fabrics, which this is a cotton fabric, are not going to fray because they are a knit fabric and that's just not in their nature. But the other thing is that the HTV is right on the edge, so that'll help hold it together. But even where we have that little seaming that has the open space, it won't fray there either. Now, I love how the blue one came out, and this one I think is one that you could wear all year round. It would be really cute for like a cheer mom. So many ways to use this. And again, I just simply used HTV and some scissors for this one. So this is just plain old StarCraft HD. If you have any questions about this, please let me know down below. And again, remember, if you really want to, you could put some fabric glue along those seams if you really want to make sure that everything stays like perfect, but you should have no problem regardless. I hope that you guys learned some tips and tricks to making these really cute, trendy bow applique sweatshirts. Have a wonderful day, and as always, happy crafting.